The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for this day.
This is the Michael K. Show podcast.
I gotta get more K.
Listen live weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN, the ESPN New York app, and your smart speaker.
And a good afternoon, everybody. This is indeed the Michael K. Show. We are locked and loaded. What a show. So much to do, so much to say. It's another chilly day. It's Wednesday. It is January 22nd. It is 2025. Hope you're all doing well. Still no word on the New York Jets. So they did let Aaron Glenn out of the facility. And, you know, I've been listening and reading a lot of things, and Rich Cimini said that doesn't necessarily mean it's a terrible thing. And what he explained was that happened with Robert Saleh, too. And they ended up, obviously, signing Saleh. But the New Orleans Saints do lurk. I think what helps the Jets is that I truly believe that Aaron Glenn wants to be the Jets head coach. So they got that going for them, which is nice. So I hope it doesn't come down to money. Money shouldn't be an issue because money is not something that you have to worry about going toward the salary cap. It's just money. It's just money. And they might catch a break because it looks like Robert Saleh could end up getting a job, and that offsets the money that they owe him. By the way, one quick contractual thing. It's one of the most insidious things I've ever seen. So you could sign a coach or a manager to a 5-year deal. You could fire them after 1 year, then owe them 4 years' pay. But they have offset language. So let's just say you've hired a manager for 5 years at $15 million. So it's $3 million a year. You fire him after 1 season. And the offset language, if he gets another job where they pay him $2 million a year, the team that fired you benefits from that. That's $2 million they don't have to pay you. So if in another life moving forward, I have a chance to be a manager or coach, I would not sign a contract with offset language. You want to fire me, you're going to have to pay me the entire freight, no matter if somebody else decides that I'm good or not. Offset language is the biggest load of crap I've ever seen. I hope I'm explaining this the right way. If you get fired, like Woody fired Robert Saleh, he should have to pay what's remaining on his contract no matter what kind of job he gets. There shouldn't be offset language where if he gets another job, that's subtracted by what the Jets owe him. No. You had a contract with us. You fired us. Now you pay me everything. And if I get another job, that's on top of what I'm making after you embarrass me and try to ruin my career. But I digress. That's always been something that has rankled me quite a bit. It's just bothersome. 1-800-919-3776. As I said, there's a lot to do today. Today's Wednesday, so that means that we talk to Mike Lupica in the 2 o'clock hour. We always love talking to Mike. And then at 1:30, which is coming up in our next segment, we're going to talk to Joe Girardi, my colleague on the Yes Network, 3-time world champion as a player with the Yankees and a world champion as a manager. And you might be sitting there now in your car, or if you're listening on the app, you might be home. You might be nude. I think that's the best way that you could actually consume the show with no clothes on. Well, why are they having Girardi on? Here's why. Because CC Sabathia made the Hall of Fame yesterday. Yeah, well-deserved. And Joe was the manager of that 2009 team. And the more you talk to people, now time has been separated from the end of CC's career and yesterday when he gets in the Hall, they talk about the amazing influence this guy had in that room. So who better to talk about that with than Joe Girardi, who was the manager of that team. Now, Joe's first year was 2008 after Joe Torre left. And they didn't make the playoffs that year. That was the last year of the old Yankee Stadium. And Brian Cashman was desperate to change the vibe in that room. Desperate. And that's why job 1, 2, 3, and 4 for Cashman that offseason was to sign CC Sabathia. He said, I need you to change that room. And CC did. CC did. He was one of the great teammates that you will ever have. You know, we had Dylan Betances on the Hot Stove Show on yesterday. And Betances said, it's amazing how CC felt it was imperative to make all young players feel important and included. And he explained that there are a lot of veterans around baseball who think it's cool and funny and part of the indoctrination of a rookie to actually make them feel uncomfortable, make them jump, make them not feel too, accepted until they earn it. CC was the complete opposite of that. The complete opposite of that. He wanted a rookie to feel comfortable right away. There was no indoctrination period. There was no hazing, so to speak. With CC Sabathia, you took the step into the Yankee clubhouse. You put on those pinstripes. You were accepted, and he embraced you. When Dylan Betances was called up to the big leagues, CC made it a point that his locker was placed between CC Sabathia and Derek Jeter. Talk about prime real estate. And then Dylan also told a story which I could not believe. Now, one day CC had a tailor come into the Yankee clubhouse. Now, back in those days, in 2009, and I think those are the good old days, by the way, the Yankees traveled. Whenever they got on a plane, whenever they walked into a hotel arriving in another city, they were all dressed in suits and ties. No matter what the weather was, they had suits and ties because they were the New York Yankees. And they had to carry themselves that way. Now, teams travel like they're going to a gym. They wear sweatpants, and it's not the players being lazy. The teams actually think, well, it's better for them to be comfortable on the plane rather than be burdened with a tie and a jacket and all that. I think it's nonsense. I think there's something to be said for representing the organization the right way. I'm going to give you a perfect example. When the Yankees traveled to Tokyo for that series against the Tampa Bay Rays, they all wore suits and ties when they got on that plane. And then, because it's an 18-hour flight, when they were on the plane, they changed into comfortable clothing, whether it's sweatpants, pajamas, whatever, and they were like that for 17 hours in the air. And when we were closing in on landing in Japan, they had to put back their suit and tie because when they came off the plane, they were the New York Yankees. When they went into the hotel, they were the New York Yankees. But it's not like that. Again, I digress. But so all the players had to wear suits and ties. And CC had a tailor come in and measured Dylan Betances for a suit. Or at least that's what Dylan thought. And a couple of weeks later, 3 weeks, a month, I'm not sure, CC Sabathia purchased 20 suits for Dylan. 20 suits. So let's just say that a really nice suit back then might have been $1,000. Could have been $2,000. CC doesn't do things cheap. So think about what he did. 20 suits at $2,000 a piece. Now you can say, well, he makes a lot. Yeah, a lot of people make a lot of money, and they were awfully cheap. Dylan Betances also said, he's the second longest tenured teammate of CC Sabathia with the Yankees. I think Brett Gardner is the longest tenured. And he said, in all the years that I was with CC, I think it was 8, he said, he would never, ever allow anybody, any teammate, to pay for a meal. Dylan said, I don't think I ever paid for a meal when I was a New York Yankee. CC wouldn't allow it. So I'm telling you the story because you look at the numbers that CC Sabathia had with the 250 wins and, one of 3 left-handers in history with over 3,000 strikeouts, and it screams out Hall of Famer. Screams it out. And he got into the Hall of Fame on his first try. Now, take a look at the numbers that CC has now. And you can look at the numbers that Max Scherzer has and Justin Verlander, who are probably both going to the Hall of Fame. Those are the last you're going to see if pitchers have numbers like that. It's just the last. Pitchers aren't the same anymore. They're not allowed to win games. They're not allowed to pitch more than 6 innings at the most. I mean, the rare one would be Garrett Cole, who's allowed to go into the 7th or the 8th inning. Clark Schmidt's a really good pitcher. He pretty much averages 5 1/3 innings a start because they don't want you to face a third batter. They don't want you to face a batter for the third time. They just don't. But CC Sabathia, the last of a dying breed. We had him on the Hot Stove Show yesterday. This guy's done everything right. So he didn't know if he wanted to live in New York. Brian Cashman convinced him otherwise. So he bought a house in New Jersey. He's still in the house. He's raised his children. His children are just great kids. Karsten, little C, is in college playing baseball. He's got another son. He's got a couple of daughters who are sitting on the couch with the dad, and there's Amber, who is she's the rock of the family, Cece's wife and Cece's mom. It's a beautiful thing. And I've told the story before. I don't know why. I don't know why. I still don't know to this day. But Cece and I didn't have a great relationship after the first couple of years. I think it came down to the fact that the year that Cece was hurt, he consumed a lot of the games on TV when the Yankees were on the road. And he felt that I was not positive enough about the team, being the team broadcaster and being on the team plane and all that. And, I don't blame him because, in Cleveland, where he spent a lot of his career, it's not like New York. And then in Milwaukee, it's not like New York. New York is different. So if somebody is 0 for 45, I got to say on the air they're 0 for 45. I certainly didn't opine that that's terrible. I think the numbers speak for themselves. So even when you say numbers that are not perfect, players sometimes get their nose out of joint. And I think that bothered Cece that the Yankee announcer was not, quote unquote, a homer. Now, all I could do is just guess at that because he never told me. But we didn't really talk. It wasn't contentious or anything like that. But in the last couple of years, it's gotten so much better. And I never ever doubted his greatness as a player. Just because I don't get along with a player, and it's not like we fought. It's not like that at all. I still appreciate the stupendous talent that he had. And he had like 2 different careers because, midway through his Yankee career, he wasn't throwing as hard anymore. He was not able to get guys out. And Andy Pettitte taught him the cutter. And that cutter might have gotten him into the Hall of Fame because he was able to compile the wins to get to 251 and compile the strikeouts to get over 3,000. And the 3,000 strikeouts, that's almost your ticket to the Hall of Fame. You can forget about 300 wins. Nobody's going to do that. Verlander's not going to do that. I don't think it's ever going to be done again unless the rules change drastically. So 251 is an astronomical number in this day and age. And he got the most out of his talent. And it was so fitting because this is a guy who was a warrior on the mound. He simply walked off the mound when he blew out his arm on a pitch against the Houston Astros. And that was it. He pushed that body as far as it could possibly go until he couldn't throw pitches anymore. That's a Hall of Famer. That's a Hall of Famer. Well deserved by that guy. Well deserved. Also getting into the Hall, Ichiro Suzuki. One person didn't vote for him. I fail to grasp how you could sit down with a list of people to vote for the Hall of Fame and see Ichiro Suzuki's name on there, and you do not check that box. Because what would be the reason for not checking that box? What did he do that did make him a Hall of Famer? He's one of the most unique, phenomenal, freakish athletes that has ever gone on the world stage. And he deserved to be unanimous, as did Derek Jeter. Now, the person who didn't vote for Derek Jeter has never come forward, and I think that person is a gutless puke. Now, I don't know if the person that didn't vote for Ichiro is going to come forward. If they do, I'd love to have him on and just ask why. What did Ichiro not do that screamed out Hall of Famer to you? And you can say, well, he's in first ballot. What's the difference? But there's something to be said for being unanimous. So the only unanimous Hall of Famer is Mariano Rivera. And you can say that Ichiro is on that same kind of level. Now, also to defend that, if you think about it, Ichiro just got elected into the Japanese Hall of Fame, and he only got 92% of the vote. Here it was 99.7. And the old argument from the old guard is, well, Joe DiMaggio wasn't unanimous. Tom Seaver wasn't unanimous. Ken Griffey Jr. wasn't unanimous. Mickey Mantle wasn't unanimous. And it's ridiculous that they weren't. It's also ridiculous that they weren't. Not everybody should be unanimous. I'm not saying that CC was supposed to be unanimous. There are people that might say, I don't know if he's first ballot. The thing that bothers me with the writers, I don't want them deciding whether you're a first ballot guy or not. I want them deciding whether you're a Hall of Famer or not. That's the only thing. Are they a Hall of Famer or not? It's not for you to decide whether they're first ballot. Either they get in or they don't. And I've heard the argument from a lot of my writer friends, well, we change our opinions on things. And the other argument is you only get to vote for 10 people. So you have to eliminate some people. And that's all well and good, but you don't eliminate Ichiro. And the other argument, there's so many people on the ballot and you want to have people remain on the ballot so we could change our mind on them. And I know that Ichiro is going to get enough votes, so that's why I left him off to give a vote to maybe a David Wright, so he's over the 5%. But I always go back at them with this. Let's say that independent of anybody else, every single person that votes decided the same thing. Well, Ichiro is going to get in, but I want to keep Adam Jones on the ballot. So I'm going to give him that vote and not vote. Let's say independent of everyone. Every single person that voted thought the same thing. That means Ichiro wouldn't get in. He would fall below the 5%. Now, what I'm saying is the chance of that is infinitesimal, probably less than that. But still, the possibility exists. You should not be playing God. You're judge and jury, which is a lot of power right there. Don't play God. Don't play God. And the third person that got in was Billy Wagner. And Billy Wagner in his 10th and final year of eligibility. This is a guy in the first year he got 10%. In his second year he got 10%. And he finally got in. And you saw the reaction from Billy Wagner when he got the phone call from Jack O'Connell. I mean, he broke down. He couldn't even speak. He said, for all these years I've been told I don't belong, and now I do belong. And I will tell you this, everybody listening. This means the world to players. They can act cool about it, but this is the ultimate affirmation. There have been over 23,000 Major League Baseball players in the history of the game. 23,000. With the three that got elected yesterday, you know how many Hall of Famers there are? Hall of Fame players, not managers, not executives. Hall of Fame players. You know how many there are? There are now 281. That is a select group. So when you get to be in that hall and you get that plaque, you are part of forever. Nobody could ever take that away from you. It means the world to them. You could see CeCe how happy he was, and Ichiro how happy he was. And Billy Wagner couldn't even compose himself. He was so overwhelmed. So those are the guys that got in. Carlos Beltran didn't get in. I think he was about 70%. You have to have 75% of the vote. So he's going to get in. But I think it's unfair that he's not. And I'm going to tell you why. Of everybody that was involved in the Houston Astro sign stealing scandal, he has been punished the most. And the reason for that is he was a player on that team. And he concocted with Cora the ability to steal signs with the camera and stuff like that. But he was a player. And then by the time the ruling came down, he was no longer a player. So he's not protected by the Players Association. So when all the players testified to Manfred, they all got immunity to tell the truth. Because that's what the Players Union demanded. Carlos Beltran did not have that immunity because he wasn't protected by the union. Then when the report comes out, he had been hired by the Mets as their manager. He was fired because the Wilpons didn't have the sack to keep him there. He was fired because of his involvement. He wasn't a manager, nor was he a coach. A.J. Hinch was the manager. He sat out a year, and now he's a member in good standing, a respected member, a manager of the Tigers. Cora lost his gig with the Red Sox for 1 year. They gave it to Ron Renicky and then came back and got it. And he's one of the most well-respected managers. And Carlos Beltran lost his managerial job and is not in the Hall of Fame. And when you look at his numbers, there's no debate whatsoever. He's one of the greatest switch hitters who ever lived. One of the greatest postseason players who ever lived. And he is not in because of involvement with the Astros. And I think that is totally unfair. Totally. One other side note. A-Rod went from, I believe, 34% to 37% in his fourth year of eligibility. So he's still about halfway there. And I've said this before, if you were on the ballot for 20 years, if you could be on the ballot for 20 years, I think A-Rod might squeak in because the younger people that get that vote. No, I saw like 12 first-year voters, 9 of them voted for A-Rod. So there's your 75%. But I don't think that in the next 6 years, enough of the baseball writers will have a turnover that he could get in. And I think that's one of the reasons they took the voting from 15 years to 10, because I think the Hall wanted to keep out Barry Bonds and Clemens. And the longer you're on that ballot, the better chance people would change their mind or the voting group will get younger and not care about PEDs. Now, I was talking with the guys yesterday in the studio at the hot stove, and it's interesting. I think Dylan Betances is the one who brought it up. He said, you know, if they just agreed that anybody that had any involvement in the PED era or was suspected of using PEDs, if they said that would be on the plaque, he said, I bet you a lot of writers would say, okay, his numbers say he should be in, and as long as it's noted that he was a PED user, like if Alex's plaque said suspended for a year for PED use, then some writers might say, okay, you can get in. But I think he's got a long ride ahead of him, and I don't think he's going to get in because I think he is going to run out of time. 1-800-919-3776. Let's go to the phones. We will have Joe Girardi on in about 10 minutes, so stay tuned for that. And we will go to Alex in Midtown. Alex, start it off, my friend.
Hey, Michael, how are you? I hope you're staying warm.
Yes, it's very nice in the studio.
You mentioned that last moment of CeCe walking off the mound in his final game. I also remember in the other dugout was Garrett Cole, and he was giving him a standing ovation. And I just remember that being like a nice moment where it seemed like greatness was recognizing greatness. I thought that was really poetic at the time.
And you know what, Alex? I think the entire Astros team was clapping for him. And they realized this was a warrior that had thrown every pitch that his body allowed. It's amazing. Thank you for bringing that up. It really was a special moment.
Yeah, and I think CeCe could be a really good voice for Garrett as he gets, older in his career to help him maybe change the way that he pitches, kind of like what Andy did for CeCe early in his career.
The thing with CeCe, Alex, he could be anything he wants. He's got an incredible personality. We had him in for an inning on Old Timers Day in the Yes booth, and he was great. Breaking down the game. He knows the game. He articulates the game that younger people understand. He could be anything he wants. Now he's just he's enjoying his life. He works with Major League Baseball, works with the Players Alliance. He's got it going on. Whatever he wants to do, he could grab it and run with it. That's how impressive a person he is. So, the world is his oyster. Let's go to Javier in Queens.
Hey, Michael, how's it going? Thanks for taking my call.
You got it.
Before I talk a little CeCe, I think when it comes to the vote, sometimes these voters who are writers, they want to make themselves a part of the story. Like it's like they're one shot to have to answer why they didn't vote for somebody, and that's why we don't get a lot of unanimous voters. Like they want to be a part of the story.
But here's the deal, Javier. If you want to be a part of the story, right? then the guy that didn't vote for Jeter, why does he's just hiding in the shadows? Explain why you didn't vote. Then you'll get all the publicity that comes with it. If you remain anonymous, you're just a scared little rabbit. You did something that ruined somebody's day. Derek Jeter says he doesn't care, but there has to be some aspect that he would have liked to be unanimous. I think, journalism is all about transparency. If you're going to vote for an award, then make your vote known. What, are you afraid of defending yourself?
I completely agree with you. With CeCe, I was with you. I thought he was a first ballot Hall of Famer. I'm so happy for him. Shout out to CeCe. My question to you, Michael, is do you think the Yankees should retire CeCe's number? And the reason I ask, and my thoughts on this are, if they retired Reggie Jackson's number, and he also went in as a Yankee when a lot of people thought he should have went in as an A, if you're using that as the bar, I think CeCe should absolutely have his number retired with the Yankees. I thought he was a better Yankee, and I thought he was a better captain for the Yankees. He was a better leader for the Yankees. I know Reggie did amazing things in the World Series, but outside of that, he could have easily have gone into the Hall of Fame with Oakland, and he could have easily not had his number retired.
Well,
so
I don't have any information on this. CeCe played for the Yankees for 9 years. He won a World Championship with them, and now he's a Hall of Famer. I would not be surprised if they retire number 52. I was thinking about a number retirement. We'll get into this a little bit more. I'm listening to the Nick Net game yesterday. And, they were advertising that, Vince Carter's number is going to be retired by the Nets. He played 4.5 years for them. 4.5 years, you get your number retired? Now, I know he was unbelievable, but my goodness, 4.5 years warrants your number being retired? CeCe, 9 years and a championship. I think his number should be retired. Joe Girardi will join us in just a moment, my colleague from Yes, and the manager who managed the 2009 World Championship Yankees. And he'll have a unique take on CeCe Sabathia. That's coming up next, right here on 880 ESPN.
There's one thing that will forever change the way you sleep, and it's the softest 100% organic cotton sheets from Boll & Branch. You'll fall asleep faster, wrapped in the most luxurious comfort. You'll never sleep hot again with sheets that feel breathable to sleep in. You'll experience the purest softness on night one, and feel your sheets get even softer with every wash. Discover the difference with 15% off your first set of sheets at bowlandbranch.com with code SPORTS15. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
So it's a new year, 2025, and you're thinking, how am I going to make this year different? How am I going to build something for myself? The best time to start your new business is right now, and Shopify is how you're going to make it happen. Shopify makes it simple to create your brand, open for business, and get your first sale. Get your store up and running easily with thousands of customizable templates. No coding or design skills required. All you need to do is drag and drop. Their powerful social media tools let you connect all your channels and create shoppable posts and help you sell everywhere people scroll. Shopify makes it easy to manage your growing business. They help with the details like shipping, taxes, and payments from one single dashboard, allowing you to focus on the important stuff, like growing your business. What happens if you don't act now? Will you regret it? What if someone beats you to the idea? Don't kick yourself when you hear this again in a year because you didn't do anything now. With Shopify, your first sale is closer than you think. Established in 2025 has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/network, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/network to start selling with Shopify today. Shopify.com/network.
This is a PSA, or public sock announcement. Experts have declared Bombas socks as the best way to warm up chilly feet. These pairs are super cushy, soft, and designed for maximum coziness. Plus, for every pair purchased, another pair will be donated, so someone in need of essential clothing can stay warm this winter. Go to bombas.com/ESPNpod and use code ESPNpod for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/ESPNpod and use code ESPNpod.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, it's Superbox Bonanza 6. Each qualifier will take home an ESPN prize pack and have a chance at one of 10 Superbox prizes. Be caller number 10 right now at 888-987-ESPN to select a box for the big game with a chance to win $250 in the first and third quarters, $500 at halftime, and a final score payout of $1,000. All brought to you by Tullamore Dew Irish Whiskey, and Sloman's Security. All right, we're talking about CC Sabathia and Ichiro, as well as Billy Wagner getting into the Hall of Fame yesterday. And we thought it'd be great to talk to my colleague at the Yes Network, that is Joe Girardi, who managed CC and was the manager of that 2009 championship team. And Joe joins us now. Joe, it's Michael. How you doing?
I'm great, Michael. How are you?
Doing very well as well. What did CC mean to that 2009 team? That was your second year managing after 2008. Then they signed him as a free agent. What did he mean, A, on the field? I think we know that. And then B, in the clubhouse.
Well, he meant so much in both places. On the field, he was obviously the ace. You know, he threw 230 innings that year, 34 starts. You could rely on him. He was always matched up against the ace of the other team, and he was dominant. And you always felt like CC had everybody's back on the field. He was that kind of guy. But just as important, he was that kind of guy in the clubhouse. I think you could make an argument that CC was the greatest teammate that any of us were ever around, whether you were a player, coach, or manager, and he meant so much to the clubhouse, how he brought everybody together, and I thought that was really important. This was the guy that would get a suite on the road at a basketball game and take all his teammates, would rent a boat on the 4th of July and take all his teammates out, always doing stuff, always including everyone. But the other thing that he did on the field that probably doesn't get talked about a lot, Michael, is he changed the way that I was able to manage games. And I say that because he would usually go deep into games and because there wasn't a left-hander that I was going to bring in over him to face a left-hander, I could manage really aggressive the day, before he pitched and really aggressive the day after he pitched because all my relievers had a day off. So 3 out of the 5 days for sure, I felt like we had an advantage just because of what he did and how deep he went into games.
And Joe, a CC Sabathia, that's a dying breed. I mean, we've got a Garrett Cole.
Oh, yeah.
There's still some pitchers like that, but the sport has almost legislated those pitchers out of the game.
Michael, in 2008, he threw 253 innings. We'll never see that again. We just won't. I don't think so in our lifetime. The year before, he threw 241. There's 231 year, 237. I mean, this guy was a workhorse that took the ball, and you could make an argument a lot of times where with him, who's had better stuff than him when he's got 90 pitches? Not too many guys in your bullpen are still going to have better stuff than him. So why are you taking him out? And even as he started to lose velocity, he figured it out. His biggest thing that he had to figure out when his stuff started to go down a little bit was the knee brace that allowed him to do what he needed to do on his front side when he landed. And he went through, Michael, I'm telling you, 4, 5, 6 knee braces until he found the right one. And once he found the right one, he became more effective again. So, I mean, at age 35, he's making 30 starts. I mean, that's impressive and going deep in the game. So I actually love the man. I was blessed to have managed a player like him, and he meant so much to my career as a manager and a person.
I was talking to Dylan Betances yesterday, and he said, he looks at CC like a big brother. He said, and I think a lot of the people in that room feel the same way. He said, you would not find a kinder person, a more caring person. Mm-hmm. He said, but there was a switch that when he went between the white lines, he was really, really mean. Did you see that too?
Oh, yeah, because he was so competitive. And I used to say he was like a big teddy bear. Off the field, he's a big teddy bear, and you just want to be around him. And he had that real loud laugh that was infectious. And, his mother meant so much to his career. I remember his mother telling me, if he acts up, you just call me, right? I mean, it was all about family and teammates and winning ball games. That's what CC was about. And we all remember what he did in Tampa, where he was going to lose a lot of money, if he threw at someone, and he was going to protect his teammate. And he didn't care about the money. He cared about what he meant to the team in winning ball games. And, again, we were all so lucky to be around him, and what a great sign he was by the New York Yankees.
Now, I remember, Brian, when he was pursuing him, Brian Cashman, he said he wanted to change the makeup of that room. Did he? I mean, was that a big change bringing in CC?
I think so. I really do, because of what he did. Like I told you, he brought everyone together and included everyone all the time and really made it a team. He was a leader in the clubhouse, and it was just because of who he was. He wasn't trying to be a leader. It was just his personality. And, man, I could still hear that barrel laugh, like coming from the clubhouse. And I'd be sitting in my office and you could hear it. And there were people always laughing around him. And he never sacrificed anything, his work or anything, to win ball games. But when he wasn't doing that, he was bringing everyone together and making for a great clubhouse.
How much did Andy Pettit teaching him the cutter extend his career?
I think a lot. And I think that those players that are willing to make changes as – maybe you lose a little bat speed or you lose a little foot speed and don't quite have the range that you used to, or you lose a little bit on your fastball. Those guys that are willing to admit that and understand that I have to make changes, players that are really good self-evaluators last a long time, and that's why CC lasted so long.
Now, you also coached when Ichiro was there, and I said this last night on the Hot Stove Show. I'm glad that he was a Yankee for 2 years, because you could watch somebody from afar and you could appreciate them, but you really gain an appreciation of what goes into making them great when you see them every day. And his work ethic and his commitment to the game. Did you feel the same way, Joe, about him?
Michael, his work ethic was incredible. I mean, this was a guy that set up his own weight room in our clubhouse and brought his weights with him and did his work all the time. A guy that played 162 games at 38 years old, wanted to be out there every day, had 200 hits his first 10 or 11 years in the big leagues, was out there for 750 plate appearances. I mean, he was incredible, and he changed the games in a lot of ways. I mean, obviously, offensively, he was great at getting on base and stealing bases, but defensively, you did run on him, and he covered a ton of ground in the outfield. And Michael, I always felt like, you look at Ichiro and you think about a guy that got on base and got a ton of hits. Mm-hmm. But when he needed to hit a home run, son of a buck, he could do it. I mean, it was incredible. He had a ton of power, but he knew his game was getting on base and causing chaos. But I remember he hit one against Mo, and I was like, my goodness. And I remember when he first came over, I was still playing, and I was in spring training in Arizona, and people were talking about, are you going to be able to knock the bat out of this guy's hand? Man, there were a lot of people that were wrong about this guy, and he went out and won the MVP and Rookie of the Year and the Gold Glove and everything that his first year in the big leagues, and just kind of said, you know what, I'm here, and he stayed a long time. I mean, he played until he was 45. I mean, who does that? 44, really. Who does that? Nobody does that. But he was always in the best conditioned athlete, was always working and trying to improve his trade.
It's funny, I've heard a story about that first spring training with Ichiro where Lou Piniella, was watching him and said, well, what did we bring? This guy can't hit. And he said, son, is that all you have? And Ichiro just said, I'm working through stuff. But Lou didn't see it right away because, Joe, there aren't that many players like that just put the ball in play and have such speed. And he did add a different dimension to the sport.
Yeah, he did, because he put pressure on the defense. He put pressure on the pitcher when he got on base. And you knew that you were going to have a tough at bat. And you couldn't strike him out. That was the other thing. You really had a hard time striking him out. His first year when he came over here, he struck out 53 times in 730 plate appearances. Now, guys struck out 53 times in 2 months.
Right.
753 plate appearances, I mean, that's incredible what he was able to do. Never even came close to striking out 100 times, and I think the most he ever struck out in a year was 77. But he hit 351 that year.
Amazing. I mean, you said 55. I mean, there's some guys that do that in a month. And they're considered contact hitters. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
I mean, his bat-to-ball skills were second to none.
Now, and just finishing, we're talking with Joe Girardi here on the Michael Kay Show. And talking to Dellin about CeCe, I said, how many guys are like that in a major league clubhouse? And he paused and he said, I mean, you're lucky if you get one of them out of 25. He goes, and I think that might be more than there actually are. Was he right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think that for so many people to say it's the greatest teammate he's ever around, you got to think that there weren't too many guys like him. Like, I used to think that Tim Raines was that kind of guy that could make anyone laugh and everyone feel comfortable. But CeCe took it to a whole nother level and was willing to make, substantial sacrifices financially to make it a team. And to buy a suite at a playoff game in Boston for a basketball game, that's not cheap.
Right.
To rent out a boat in Chicago on the 4th of July that houses the whole team and their wives and kids, that's not cheap. This guy did everything to just make it a team. And I agree with Dellen. You don't come around guys like him very often.
And maybe you know the answer to this, Joe, because I was never able to find out. Why did he dislike Jackie Bradley Jr. so much? Because everybody I speak to say Jackie Bradley Jr. is the nicest guy, but CeCe just in his mind, he didn't like him at all.
That's news to me. The only thing I would do is I'd go back and see what Jackie Bradley Jr. did his first few at bats, and if he had hit a home run or did something. But I had no idea he didn't like him.
Oh, unbelievable. He would throw up and in him all the time. And, players would say, what's the deal? He just didn't like his face, I guess. I don't know. And maybe he bunted on him. He didn't like to be bunted on.
Tried to bunt on him.
Yeah, he tried to bunt, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope
he
you've
didn't
had
like that when you tried to bunt on him.
Yeah, he didn't like that at all, especially with the knee the way it was. Anyway, thanks for coming on, Joe. Look forward to seeing you and working with you soon. It should be a fun year.
Thanks, Mike. I'll see you at the end of March. Have a great day.
That is Joe Girardi, so some good stuff from him. One of a kind teammate. So we see what he was on the field. But I've heard those stories, especially in his first spring training. He would buy suites and bring whichever member of the team that wanted to go with him to an Orlando Magic game. They would go from Tampa and drive to Orlando and go to the game. And he'd do that with the Tampa Bay. Just all on his dime. All on his dime. Very generous. And there aren't many people like that, because even some people that you read about and you hear about, the great leaders, it's selective. They led some, they didn't lead everyone. But CeCe was all-inclusive for sure. Amazing stuff. So congratulations to Carson Charles Sabathia getting into the Hall of Fame on his first try. All right. I always tell you, you're the co-host of the show. Let's talk some. 1-800-919-3776. 1-800-919-3776. We are... What was that? Is Aaron Glenn official? Adam Schefter is just reporting that Aaron Glenn is the head coach of the New York Jets. So the weather played a role. He was not able to get down to New Orleans. I think he always wanted to be the Jet coach, and now he is the Jet coach. Adam Schefter reporting exclusively that Aaron Glenn is the new head coach of the New York Jets. Now, we got something to talk about when we come back. Very interesting stuff. Aaron Glenn, a former Jet, most recently the defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions, and now he is a new head coach of the New York Jets. We'll talk about it when we get back on the K Show, 880 ESPN.
TaxAct can think of a million things more fun than filing taxes. TaxAct is going to name some now. Sitting in traffic. Folding a fitted bedsheet. Listening to your coworker talk about his fantasy team. Digging a hole. Digging an even larger hole next to that original hole. Unfortunately, TaxAct's filing software can't make taxes fun. But TaxAct can help you get them done. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
Harry Douglas here, and if you're constantly on the go like I am, then earbuds are a priority. That's why you need Technique's new noise-canceling AZ80s. Like you, these buds work as hard as they play. You'll get Technique's legendary high-res audio, along with state-of-the-art noise cancellation, so you can stay in your zone. Visit us.techniques.com/sports to shop for AZ80s now. That's us.technics.com/sports.
Hey there, Ryan Reynolds here. It's a new year, and you know what that means. No, not the diet. Resolutions. A way for us all to try and do a little bit better than we did last year. And my resolution, unlike big wireless, is to not be a raging and raise the price of wireless on you every chance I get. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, if you just joined us, Adam Schefter confirming that Aaron Glenn is the new head coach of the New York Jets. He's 52 years old. Most recently, the defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions did a great job with them. With all the injuries this year, he still kept them as a potent, stout unit. They faltered a little bit against the Commanders, obviously. I think the injuries finally got to them. But to Aaron Glenn, a former Jet player, he's the first Jet player to become their head coach in 50 years. And you might say, well, who's the other one? And the other one happens to be Walt Michaels, who did play one game with the Jets, and then he became the Jet head coach. So, good for Aaron Glenn. This is the guy that looks like they wanted. I think the only person they would have deviated from Aaron Glenn for is Mike Vrabel. And it wasn't going to be Mike Vrabel. I think once the Patriots fired Mayo, then you knew that Vrabel was going to end up going to the Patriots, and he did. And now Aaron Glenn takes over. You could have some concerns, first-year head coach, but there have been first-year. Everybody has to be first-year somewhere. And you hope that it works right away. Bill Parcells had never been a head coach. And then he coached the Giants. He was 3-12-1 that first year. Not good. They were thinking about firing him. They didn't, and the rest is history. Rex Ryan had never been a head coach, and first 2 years he takes them to the AFC Championship game. So it does work out. It's kind of imperative, though, that when you are a first-year head coach, that you make it work with some experience in your coaching staff. It's going to be interesting to see who he brings in as the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator. And there had been word previously that Glenn wanted to bring back Aaron Rodgers. Now, Lomas Brown was on with Bart and Carlin right before this show, and he was asked who would the quarterback be if Aaron Glenn is the head coach.
And I do believe if he comes there, I think Aaron's still going to be our quarterback. You know, I may be wrong, but I'm telling you, I think if Aaron Glenn goes there, I think Aaron Rodgers will go there, and he's going to be there.
Now, there's a flip side to this, too. Keyshawn Johnson was on with DPHO, on with DHR, Don Hahn and Rosenberg, and he said, you know, he doesn't want Rodgers back with the Jets. Here's Keyshawn from yesterday.
I'm not interested. I'm not interested in Aaron Rodgers. That's just me. I'm not interested. If Aaron Glenn would have asked me, I would tell him I'm not interested. And I like Aaron Rodgers. I don't know him personally, but when I see some of the things that have gone on in Green Bay and now in New York, I don't know that I really want to bring that back into my locker room. Whatever that is, because I don't have all the details and all the stories, but I do know a player was thrown under the bus and eventually traded. I do know a coach was fired and an offensive coordinator was demoted. I do know he wasn't at minicamp. He was in Egypt. Those things I do know. Do I want that in my locker room? And they won 7 games last year, and I think they won 5 this year. Zach Wilson was able to get them 7, and our 4-time MVP was only able to get them 5.
Now, our very own Marcus Spears said this about Glenn needing a quarterback if he takes the job.
I think Aaron Glenn is the right fit for any team that needs a head coach. It's 2 things that I'm concerned about. If I'm Aaron Glenn, I don't want Aaron Rodgers back as a quarterback. The second thing is, what is the plan for this organization and franchise in trying to get the guy as a signal caller? Robert Saleh was just here, y'all. He was a defensive mastermind, considerably so, leaving San Francisco and the phenomenal job that he did. They drafted Zach. It didn't work out. They went and got Aaron. That didn't work out. The head coach was the one to get axed. There needs to be some guarantees for Aaron Glenn about the path of this organization and what their plan is to find the most important position in football so he can continue as a head coach.
So there's a lot of people that know the game that don't think it should be Rodgers. I think it should be because I don't see anybody that would be better that you'd be bringing in. Right now, the only guy under contract is Tyrod Taylor. Essentially, Rodgers is under contract too, but it's voidable, but it would count against the cap. But you got to convince me who's the other quarterback you're bringing in. That's all I have to know. Who's the other quarterback you're bringing in? Let's go to Ira in Staten Island. Ira.
Hey, Michael, glad you got to break the news. And, I'm excited about it. Do I know what type of coach he's going to be down the road? Who knows? But I think honestly, between you and me, I think Parcells gave Tannenbaum his blessing when he was doing all his research on Glenn. And if it's good enough with Parcells, it's good enough for me. So we're now just hoping he gets the right staff. And as for the quarterback, lucky you that you host a radio show. For the next 3 months, we're going to be talking about Aaron Rodgers. We've discussed it. I know how you feel. I respect it. You know how I feel. I hope you respect it. And we'll see what decision they make.
Now, because you have such an involvement, emotionally with the Jets, is there anything about the Glenn hiring that concerns you, Ira?
Well, a first-time coach always, and I want to see the staff. The biggest thing is I got to see who he hires as the offensive coordinator. Okay, I think defensively they'll be just fine. I think he's going to put an experienced staff together. He's not going to do what Saleh did with all young kids. And, once I learn about the offensive coordinator, I'm good to go. I think the organization, they needed a facelift, and I think Glenn, I knew his father when he was a player for the Jets, and if he's anything like his father was back then, the Jets are in good shape.
Good stuff. Good hearing from you, Ira. Let's go to Frank in Newark. Frank.
Hi, Mike. Good show as always. I was going to say this. I mean, unfortunately, the Jets have invested too much in bringing Aaron Rodgers a year, got him Devontae Adams, which he wanted, and they didn't win enough games last year. I mean, they won enough games last year to get themselves out of position to pick the quarterback they want, even in this year's class. And unfortunately, they're kind of stuck with him. You got to, at some point, you have to get some returns on your investment,
Mm-hmm. Well, and also the first job of Aaron Glenn, I think, is to fly out to California and just lay it on the line to Rodgers what he expects, and is Rodgers willing to do that, and does Rodgers want to play? I think you've got to solve the quarterback situation right away. Obviously, you got to put your staff together, and who the offensive coordinator is going to be important as well. But you've got to find out from Rodgers. You can't let this linger, as Ira said, for 3 months. You just can't. And, our previous caller just said, they won enough games that they couldn't get one. Really? Does Ward or Sanders really excite you that much? You think that's the quarterback of the future? That's why I don't think the Giants are kicking themselves that much for finishing third, having the third pick. Ward or Sanders, convince me that they're going to be great. Maybe they are. I don't see it, but maybe they are. All right, we'll continue with this story. Aaron Glenn is the new Jets head coach. When you work hard, you save hard. So treat yourself with well-earned savings all month long at Bay Ridge Mazda. Get financing rates as low as 0.9% APR on nearly every new car in stock. 0.9% APR. Their goal is complete credit approval regardless of your score. Plus, enjoy Bay Ridge Plus benefits like ding and dent coverage, key replacement, windshield protection, and roadside assistance. Visit them today in Brooklyn or online at BayRidgeMazda.com. See dealer for details.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
You know what? Check yourself.
Hear more from Michael K. weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN.
Suck it up and like it.
The ESPN New York app and your smart speakers.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the Dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for this day.
This is the Michael K. Show podcast.
I gotta get more K.
Listen live weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN, the ESPN New York app, and your smart speaker.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. If you just tuned in, it's being reported that Aaron Glenn is the new Jets head coach. Expecting that this was going to happen. I've been doing some research on Glenn, former first-round draft pick of the Jets, which anybody could, find out by just Googling him. But his story is a really interesting one, and I told it yesterday, just bears repeating, that this is a guy that after he retired became a businessman, and he owned 8 very successful restaurants in Houston, Texas. And one was actually in the Texans Stadium, NRG Stadium. And then there was one that was right across the street from the stadium where all the players went after games. It was the place to be. And that was his job. He was a businessman. And he felt that that's what a player should do when you got out of football, retired from football. You should make your mark in another area. And he did. And he was telling the story that he would sit in front of his TV on Sundays or whenever an NFL game was being played, and he'd be shouting things at the screen. No, you shouldn't have done that. Why did you call the timeout there? Stuff like that. And one day his wife walked into the living room where he was shouting at the TV, and she said, "Hey, G, you got to stop." He said, "What do you mean?" You got to get back into football. That's what you love. And he said it was like an epiphany moment for him where he knew he liked what he was doing. He liked being a businessman. He liked sitting behind a desk and running a business, but he loved football. And he decided to get back into the game, and he didn't do it in a way that as if he was entitled or privileged. Started out as a scout, traveling the country, other positions, working his way up to defensive coordinator, and he made his mark along the way where people liked him. People saw that there's something there. And now at the age of 52, after being the Lions defensive coordinator, he now becomes the head coach of the Jets after what you could say is one of the worst Jet seasons of all time. Now, you might say the last season under Kotite was worse. Now, I'm going to say why this was worse. So much was expected of this year. So much was expected. And nothing happened. You ill-advisedly fired Robert Saleh after 5 games, 2-3, as he's preparing his team to play the Buffalo Bills for first place in the AFC East. First place. Then you bring in Jeff Ulbrich, the defensive coordinator, who simply wasn't ready for the job. And by naming him head coach, you destroyed the best part of the team, which happened to be the defense, because he couldn't do both in the right way. And the team just hit the skids. They just hit the skids. Ulbrich was interviewed as one of the countless people that came in to talk about the job. He never had a chance. Just got named defensive coordinator, I believe, with the New Orleans. No, not with the Saints. With the Atlanta Falcons. And from everybody that you talk to, Glenn was a choice. I think that Mike Vrabel, if he had been available, probably would have jumped ahead of Glenn. But everybody that they spoke with, Glenn kept coming up as he's the guy. He's the guy. He's the guy. He wanted the job. And he was also interviewed by the Jets when they hired Saleh. So they had a baseline of what he was about, and then they saw the work that he did with Detroit. And here he is. Can he pull the Jets out of the abyss? And one of the things he's going to have to deal with, and there's no getting around it, is the quarterback situation. I think that's got to be job 2. Obviously, hiring a staff is job 1. And then you've got to decide whether or not you want to bring back Aaron Rodgers. Look around football, everybody. You can't go down the aisle at Kohl's or at the Home Depot and get yourself a great quarterback. Now, I don't think that Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback anymore. I think he could be pretty good. I don't think that he has the same foot speed that he had previously. Can't move around as much, but he can still fling it. Got a great arm. And I've said it before. Not my favorite person. I think he talks out of his backside a lot. He loves the sound of his own voice. And you heard the guys that, I played their sound earlier, Keyshawn Johnson and Marcus Spears. Keyshawn said, he wreaks havoc wherever he goes. He does not want him as a Jet quarterback. But my question to everybody and to Aaron Glenn would be this as well. Who's out there that's better than Aaron Rodgers was in the last 5-6 games of the year? I'm not saying he was great. And don't throw numbers at me that compare him to other quarterbacks that had pretty decent seasons. Watch him every game. The 5 or 6 opportunities he had to win in the fourth quarter never happened. The beginning of the year, didn't really throw the ball downfield. But in the final game of the year, against the Dolphins, who still had a chance at a playoff spot, threw 4 touchdowns. I think he still wants to play. But if you're Aaron Glenn, you talk to Aaron Rodgers and say, these are the rules. This is how it's going to be done. We want you to be a part of it. But if you're not going to play nice and play by our rules and show up at all of our mandatory meetings, then we'll move on. And for Aaron Rodgers, what's better out there for him? I don't think the 49ers are bringing him in. They're probably going to re-sign Brock Purdy. So what other team has room for Aaron Rodgers that has a chance to be decent? Because no matter how abysmal the Jet season was last year, there's still talent on the team. There's still talent on the team. And that's the most important thing that you need. I don't think this team is that far away from competing for a playoff spot. I don't think it's close to a Super Bowl, but would you be shocked if Aaron Glenn installs discipline and a culture that he's learned with the Detroit Lions? Would you be surprised if the Jets won 9 or 10 games next year? But the key to that is who's the quarterback. Who's going to be the quarterback? And we don't know. Because I think right now the best option is Aaron Rodgers. You're not bringing back Sam Darnold. You're not trading for Kirk Cousins. Who's that guy? You think Tyrod Taylor would be better than Aaron Rodgers? Now, the one hurdle that you have to clear, though, you can't afford to lose Garrett Wilson. So there were rumblings at the end of the year that Garrett Wilson was not in love with Aaron Rodgers and that he might want to go if Aaron Rodgers came back. That's got to be solved, too. Because you can't lose Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is a legitimate, outstanding receiver. And he's yours. So you got to find out if there's a fit there. And that's where Aaron Glenn's people skills going to take over. That's where he's going to take over. This is a guy, played 15 seasons in the NFL, Aaron Glenn did. Played for the Jets, the Texans, Cowboys, Jacksonville Jaguars, and others. So he's seen it all. He has seen it all. He's played under different coaches. One of the coaches he played under, Bill Parcells, who loved him. One of his favorite players. And in all likelihood, a big part of that, and Ira just said it as well, Parcells loved him. And Parcells and Tannenbaum are close, and Tannenbaum and Spielman ran this interview process with the 33rd team for Woody Johnson, and I'm sure that Bill Parcells had great things to say about Aaron Glenn. So a new era for the New York Jets. How does it work out? Is it going to be different than the other ones? Let's go to the phones. 1-800-919-3776. We go to Jose in Brooklyn. Jose.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. Shout out to the company. And I'm really happy about this signing because it is like the story of a player coming back home and being able to trying to do right, because it kind of reminds me of why I got into teaching and everything. And it's going to be it looks like it's going to be a fun trek, but my concern is more of who he hires as a staff, like who is going to be the offensive coordinator, who's going to be his defensive coordinator, so that way he's not, focusing too much on the defense, and he can, actually be more of a CEO type and, focusing on the game management flow and all of that stuff. So that's kind of, where my concern is. But, the quarterback thing also has to be addressed. And like you said, Glenn is the reason I love the hiring is Glenn is a person that has accountability. Most of these players, if they didn't watch him play personally, their parents definitely watched him play personally, and it's going to be something that hopefully he can be able to convince Garrett Wilson to be patient, not give up on the process, and still watch this out, because there was a time where we had a wide receiver that said, "Give me the damn ball," and it took an established figure like Bill Parcells to pretty much say, "Hey, not give up on the process and he ended up having his best years with Vinny Testaverde. So I just wanted to throw that out there and see what you thought.
Well, I think you're right on all of it. There's concerns being a first-time head coach, so obviously his coordinator hires are going to be huge. He's got to address the quarterback situation. There's no denying that. And it's heavy lifting when a team has a season like the Jets just had. You know, that they don't fire coaches if they have great years. That's very rare. So you had a bad year, you get the job. Now it's up to you. From everything you hear about Aaron Glenn, he is a task master. He's going to tell you exactly what needs to be told. He's not going to pussyfoot around. He's not going to tell you what you need to hear. That's going to be interesting, the dynamic in the relationship between he and Rodgers. Because I think Rodgers kind of got babied in his 2 years with the Jets because he had too much power. Bring him back as a quarterback, and that's all he is. He's not a personnel guy. He's not going to demand trades. He's not going to have you sign offensive linemen. You're not going to bring in his buddies. He's already gotten everything he wanted, and it didn't work out. He got Devontae Adams. He got Alan Lazard. He got Randall. He got everybody he wanted, and it didn't work out. Now the message to him is, okay, now you do it our way. All we need you to do is be a quarterback. All we need you to do is be a quarterback. Cullum in the Bronx. Cullum.
What's going on, Mike? I get you could see the positivities in the Aaron Glenn signing. I just personally look at it as what's the difference between this hiring and with Robert Saleh and Rex Ryan. They both came from really good, consistent franchises, winning a lot, great defenses, first-time guys coming in, and obviously, like you said, we have no idea what's going to happen. This is kind of just like a nothing until we see what the coordinators do. We see what the GM. But honestly, I disagree with trying to win now. I think their best option now that it's going to be a whole new regime. I really think to get some kind of sustained success in the future, they should probably blow it up and try to
Cullum,
get it.
You know why that doesn't work here? You know why that doesn't work here? They haven't made the playoffs in 14 years. You can't keep throwing away a season. Oh, let's blow it up. Blow it up for what? You're going to get rid of the good players that you have? What does blow it up mean? You have a young wide receiver. You got a young player in the secondary. Blow up what? You got a young running back. Those are players that you build around. I don't understand the blow it up. Why do people want to give away years? Why do people want to give away years? It makes no sense to me. We all have a certain amount of years on this earth. And you've given away 14 years as a Jet. 14 years. The longest stretch of not making the playoffs. And you want to give away another 2 or 3? No. You build with what you have. You have enough there to build a team that could win. Obviously, the key is going to be the quarterback. And Rodgers gives you some breathing room if he comes back to find a quarterback. Maybe get one in the draft that you like, maybe lower in the second round, something like that. But it befuddles me how fans could sit back and sign off on just throwing a season away. I don't even understand what the Nets are doing. I don't. For a 12% chance of getting Cooper Flagg? I don't understand losing games on purpose. Blow it up. No sense whatsoever, especially when you have talent on the team. If you're going to blow it up, you should have kept Jeff Ulbrich as your head coach. Blow it up, build the team back, and then hire a coach that you think could win. Well, you know what? They've hired a coach now that they think they could win. Woody Johnson's in the 70s. You think he wants to blow it up? Aaron Rodgers, 41 years old. If he comes back, you think he wants to blow it up? Now, what Cullum's obviously saying is if you do blow it up, then Aaron Rodgers doesn't come back. That I understand. But what happens to Garrett Wilson? You lose him? What happens to Sauce Gardner? You lose him? What happens to Hall? You lose him? Blow it up. Yeah, let's have another 3 years of losing. Let's make it 17 in a row. Because New York and the fans in New York, they're so patient. They're so patient. So if they blow it up and 2 years of losing with Aaron Glenn, you don't think we're going to get phone call? You got to fire Aaron Glenn. You think Aaron Glenn wants to lose 10, 12 games a year? Hey, there's a fan base in the city, the New York Yankee fan base. The team made the World Series, and they're unhappy. So you want to continue the losing in Florham Park? Yeah, no, I'm good with that. No, absolutely not. Ricky in Virginia.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for taking my call.
You got it. What's up, buddy?
So I just heard the news that Aaron Glenn will be joining the Jets, and it made me think about the time that you, Don, and Peter had Robert Saleh on the show when he was just taking the job. And I hope to see some similarities in Aaron Glenn that I saw back then with Saleh, a successful defensive coordinator. He came across like a real leader of men at the time, so it seemed. He was well-respected and tough, and I think the Jets have a lot to look forward to with Aaron Glenn in those categories. But what troubles me and what I can't get out of my head is that the Jets just have a pattern of hiring first-time head coaches that are promoted coordinators, and this one just got torched by a rookie quarterback in the postseason. And the Jets looked for head coaches everywhere. They turned over every rock in this search except McCarthy, Rex Ryan, and Mark Sanchez was on the Jets pod last week suggesting they even look at Jason Garrett. I think the Jets could have benefited from having a coach that has experience in the seat, because you look what the Commanders are doing with Dan Quinn and Jaden Daniels, and they're putting it together with a really tight turnaround. And I just don't want to see Aaron Glenn just be in a long line of recently promoted head coaches that fall on his face within a year or two.
Well, you know what? I hear what you're saying, but there's two routes you could go, okay? So you can hire a veteran coach that's failed, and it was worked out for the Commanders because Dan Quinn, although you can't say he really failed in Atlanta. He was up 28-3 in the Super Bowl, and only an epic comeback by the Patriots stopped him from being a Super Bowl winning coach. So he had some pedigree there. Rex Ryan failed with the Jets at the end, failed with the Buffalo Bills at the end. Hasn't coached in 10 years. Is that preferable to a guy, first-year head coach? I mean, there are first-year head coaches that do well. Everybody had to have a first job, right? So this guy has worked every single level of football. He's seen it from every single angle. And as a defensive coordinator, any kind of coordinator, you're one step away from head coach. You work closely with them. So I'm sorry. You got to roll the dice and trust your instincts. And Woody's instincts haven't been great. But, Rex Ryan was a first-year head coach. And he got them to the AFC Championship 2 years in a row, the first 2 years. Didn't work out after that. Now, Rich Cimini, who covers the Jets for us at ESPN, he's been all over the story. We bring him on now for a quick take on what he thinks of the hiring. Rich, thank you for coming on, number one. And I heard you on with Bart and Carlin. You said that this was the Jets' intent from the start, that they really like Glenn. So it looked like they got their guy, right?
Yeah, they got him. I think in a perfect world, I think Mike Vrabel probably would have been their choice.
Right.
But I think they knew early on that was a long shot. But yeah, this is essentially their guy. I think they fell in love with his track record, of course, his demeanor, his leadership skills. He's got some charisma to him. He's got an it factor. He's a little feisty. He's got a little Parcells in him. He's not afraid to get in the player's face. And so I think that appealed to the Jets. And the fact that he was one of theirs. He was drafted in the first round 31 years ago, and now he's coming home. And I've talked to Aaron over the years. We've kept in touch, and every spot along the way, he kept on telling me, that his dream job was to be the coach of the Jets someday, and that dream is now a reality.
All right, so is Newmark going to be the GM from what you hear or not?
Well, certainly he had the second interview. I would say he's probably the front runner, but it certainly appears that they're going to also consider other candidates as well.
Okay,
so that's a little bit of a surprise to me, Michael. I thought this would be like a daily double today with both guys. Glenn and Newmark are close. They spent time together in Detroit. I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just a little surprised of the timing, but apparently they want to consider other guys as well.
All right, coordinators. I've been reading your reporting. He's been making calls, trying to put together a staff in the hope that he'd get the gig. So, who has he narrowed it down to? Do you know?
I think the guy to watch based on people I talked to is Nick Caley. Now, I know a lot of fans are probably like, who the heck is that? He's the tight ends coach and passing game coordinator of the Los Angeles Rams, and he's a part of the Sean McVay coaching tree. He's also part of the Josh McDaniels coaching tree because he was with the Patriots for a while. In fact, the Patriots offered him their coordinator job last year, and he turned it down. They offered him a lot of money too, and he turned it down. I think, from what I've been told, I think that might be Glenn's number one target as his offensive coordinator. I think there'll be some other names in the mix, but I wouldn't be surprised if Nick Caley emerges as the guy.
And on the defensive side?
Yeah, that's a little bit up in the air. I mean, I haven't Steve Wilkes' name has surfaced. That's a weird one for me because I don't think they have crossed paths anywhere. He, of course, most recently was the 49ers coordinator and then got fired after the Super Bowl a couple of years, last season, and then was out of the NFL this year. That would be a curious choice for me, but that's the name that's being reported by others. I know one name, Mike Westhoff, the former special team, certainly very familiar to us at our radio station, is I know his name's been mentioned out there, but I talked to Mike yesterday, and I don't think he wants to come back on a full-time basis. He left the Broncos recently due to a health concern, and he's feeling great now, but I don't think he wants a full-time job, perhaps maybe something like a advisory type role.
All right, the big question, and I've been hearing rumors that Glenn would be amenable to having Aaron Rodgers back. What do you think?
I do know this. I mean, from keeping tabs with Aaron over the years, I do know he has a high level of respect for Aaron Rodgers. And even as recently as, when I remember talking to Aaron when Rodgers got traded to the Jets, and of course it was Glenn's defense that pretty much frustrated Rodgers in that last game in Lambeau Field, Rodgers' last game as a Packer. And at that point, Aaron Glenn still had a very high regard for Aaron Rodgers. He was glad to get him out of the division. So that was then. A lot has happened since then, like an Achilles injury. So I don't know if his feelings have changed, but I know at that particular time he was still very high on Aaron Rodgers.
Do you think that Woody would want Rodgers back, or he's just wiping his hands of it?
Yeah, I don't think Woody and Aaron Rodgers have the greatest relationship. There was some stuff that happened during the year. Woody is saying that, he's going to defer to his football people to make that decision, the new GM, and, of course, Aaron Glenn. And so I think Woody would probably go along with that. But, I mean, he is the owner, and he has the final say on everything. He's signing the checks. And so that'll be a very interesting discussion, let's put it that way. I've maintained all along that I don't see Aaron Rodgers back with the Jets, but you never know. I mean, there's not a lot of great options out there.
Yeah, that's my point.
Who else is better? Are you going to Justin Fields? That's not that really doesn't move the needle at all. So that's going to be a fascinating discussion, and it'll probably be one of the first questions to Aaron Glenn in his press conference.
Interesting stuff. I know you're busy, Rich. Thanks for popping on with us. We appreciate it.
All right, Michael, anytime. Take care.
You can read Rich's reporting on ESPN.com. The whole deal. He is on top of this. He's been with the Jets as he's covered them for over 30 years, so he knows what he's talking about, and he knows his stuff. So Aaron Glenn is the new head coach of the New York Jets. Hey, it's Superbox Bonanza 6, and your chance to get your box for the big game with a prize pool of $2,000. All qualifiers will get an ESPN prize pack and a chance at one of 10 Superbox prizes. Listen daily through February 6th to DiPietro and Rothenberg, Barton Carlin, The Michael K. Show, and Don Hahn and Rosenberg. This year's big game payouts are $250 in the first and third quarters, $500 at halftime, and a final score payout of $1,000. All brought to you by Tullamore Dew Irish Whiskey and Sloman Security. For full contest details, go to superboxbonanza.com. A little bit later on in the hour, we'll give you another opportunity to get one of the super boxes. When we come back, Mike Lupica, it's Wednesday. We'll get his take on the Jets hiring and whether or not he would bring back Aaron Rodgers, and also his take on CC Sabathia, Ichiro, and Billy Wagner. Hey, it may be the off-season, but every season is Bigelow tea season. You know I'm picky about what I drink, especially on days I have a show. One of the first things I do each day is reach for a mug full of Bigelow tea. I love the different flavor options, and it's perfect for someone who makes his living behind a microphone. Want to know what keeps me going? Look no further than my cup of Bigelow tea next to me in the studio. So grab a mug full of your favorite Bigelow tea and tea proudly. Bigelow tea, the official hot tea of the New York Yankees.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Every idea starts with a problem. Warby Parker's was simple. Glasses are too expensive. So they set out to change that. By designing glasses in-house and selling directly to customers, they're able to offer prescription eyewear that's expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Warby Parker glasses are made from premium materials like impact-resistant polycarbonate and custom acetate. And they start at just $95, including prescription lenses. Get glasses made from the good stuff. Stop by a Warby Parker store near you.
Harry Douglas here. Say goodbye to bulky, clunky shavers that clutter your bathroom. Not only do you get an incredible shave, Panasonic's Palm Razor has a sleek, elegant design that adds a touch of sophistication to your bathroom. It also conveniently charges with a USB cord. Visit shop.panasonic.com/sports to shop for the Palm Razor. Use promo code Harry for 10% off exclusively for ESPN radio listeners. That's shop.panasonic.com/sports, promo code Harry.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the show. So we'll have Mike Lupica on momentarily. The Knicks squeaked by with a win yesterday over the Nets. They almost gave it away. Nets had a chance, and a three-point shot was a little bit long. Josh Hart pulled down the rebound, so they escaped with a win, so they've won 2 in a row. Oh, and, we said at the beginning of the week, they have 3 games this week that they should be able to win. The Knicks, I'm talking about. So they've gotten 2 of them, and they won back-to-back games, so that's important as well. One thing that would concern me watching Karl Anthony Towns play yesterday, the three-point shot's not there because of that thumb. So he's playing through an injury, which I understand, but a big part of his game is that he's a big man that could shoot threes like a small guy. And the three, I think since he's come back from the thumb injury, he's 1 for 9 from three-point land. So that's a little bit of a concern right there. So that worries me just a bit. But a victory nonetheless, and the Nets keep losing. Unbelievable. They just keep losing. And we just accept it, and we hope that the 4 first-round draft picks that they have will amount to something big, and all the salary cap space that they have amounts to something big. They could turn things around in a hurry here. I think they have like $65 million in cap space that's going to be available, maybe even a little bit more than that, and 4 first-round picks and a couple of second-rounders as well. So they definitely have that. We'll see what they do with it. Because if you're going to just throw away a year like this, something good should come of it. Something good has to come of it. We'll see. Rangers win again, and they win against a pretty hot team, too. And the Rangers continue to pile up points. So what looked like a lost season where they would have no chance whatsoever, they've turned it into something. They've played like a different team. Because if you looked at them in December and the beginning part of January, they looked awful. But now all they do is they just keep getting points. They just keep getting points. Congratulations to them. They look like a different team. Igor yesterday got into a fight with Kachuk. That was fun to watch. But you got to give them credit because they could have rolled over and said, this is not our year. But they've made themselves heard. And they played against some pretty decent teams, and they've won or they've tied, and they get points. So good for them. Very interesting clip that's out there. UConn played yesterday, and Danny Hurley didn't like the calls that he was getting. And the official was listening and then turned his back and walked away. And Danny Hurley, you could read his lips, said, don't you do that. I'm the best bleeping coach in college basketball. I don't like Danny Hurley. I love Danny Hurley. But sometimes he does things that just are not great optics. Just not. Here's Danny after the game. He said, we deserve a better whistle.
We foul. I mean, like Jalen Stewart, those are two like bad fouls off the dribble. You know, he fouled Telfort in the post, but we get held. I mean, we're a movement team. It happens every single game. You know, again, Big East refs, they're great officials, but for all the success we have had the last couple of years, I don't think there's a program that's like won as much as we've won that at times gets as bad a whistle.
I get it, but acting like that and saying stuff like that, you are not, Danny, going to get the benefit of the doubt. You're just not. I think you are a great coach. You're probably one of the top 3 coaches in the whole country. But acting like that is not going to get it done. I think that if there's a 50-50 whistle, you ain't getting it when you talk to officials like that. But you know better than me. You won 2 national championships in a row, and I haven't won one yet. Mike Lupica joins us at this time every single Wednesday, and he joins us now. You could read him in the New York Daily News, MLB.com, his books, the whole deal. He's the man, and we love having him on. Hi, Mike. How are you?
You know, people still say, Michael, you know, much like Lamar and not having won a Super Bowl or Josh Allen, you're the best coach to not have won a national championship yet. But we still believe in you, Michael.
As long as I still have a job, I have a chance. So thank you, Mike. I appreciate your support. So it's Aaron Glenn. Your thoughts?
I like it. I have been saying for a couple of weeks when I looked at the field, he was a wonderful player. And despite the way things ended up in Detroit when he lost all his players, I think he did a superb job, especially the second half of the season. I like the fact that he's got history with this team, and you know, people say, "Oh, they can't hire a first-time coach again." Well, I think this is a little different. I think he is a better he's as good a coordinator, certainly, as Robert Saleh was. But I think there's a presence to this man, remembering him from when he was a player. And yeah, no, I like very little of what the Jets do, Michael, but I like this.
Now, I've been saying this, that, you know, his job one is to settle the quarterback situation, and I think we're kind of on the same page where we're sick of Aaron Rodgers, but give me a better choice. If I'm Aaron Glenn, my first job is to fly out to Aaron Rodgers and say, this is the way I will use you. You've got to answer to me. You're not running the team, but we want you as a quarterback. Would you bring Rodgers back?
Yeah, I would. I mean, again, as I watch the way things lay out, I don't think the Jets listen, it's so odd that the situation the Jets are in right now would be, do we want to bring back Aaron Rodgers or do we want to bring back Sam Darnold? Because, you know, those may be their 2 best options at this point. And if Aaron Glenn is looking to buy some time and he believes he has enough defense and enough offensive weapons and that he can find the right offensive coordinator who can work around Rodgers' diminishing skills, then I can see how that makes sense. And here's the other thing, Michael. The other thing he's got to find out is if Rodgers wants to be back here.
Right.
If he's willing, and if I'm Aaron Glenn, I am actually you know, there's a lot of Aarons in this town. Have you noticed that?
A lot.
We have the home office for Aarons.
We have the Yank Aarons, and now we have the Jet Aarons.
Yeah, and I think I would sit down with him and say, I want you here to do one thing. Try to win me some football games. I don't want the drama. I don't know how much Pat McAfee's paying you, but I'm not sure that's a good idea for the culture of this organization. And I think he's got a right to ask him some tough questions before he makes that call.
And you do have to wonder, does Aaron Rodgers really want to be coached hard at the age of 41? And that's why that discussion has to be had, Mike, because from everything I've heard about Aaron Glenn, he doesn't suffer fools, and he's going to tell you exactly what you need to hear and not what you want to hear. I don't know if Aaron's in that kind of mindset. I'm not sure.
No, he might not be, Michael, and that's why there's going to be as much a doubt about this relationship going forward on the part of the new coach as there is on the guy who was their quarterback this year. Because I don't believe that Rodgers is anything close to what he was. You know, it's the old Marx Brothers line. Who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes?
Right.
We know what we saw. We know what his movement was like. We know that he showed old guy nerves on some of the biggest passes of this year. And it may very well be that Aaron Glenn, if he's looking to buy some time, he might think he's got a better chance to win games with Tyrod Taylor next season than with Aaron Rodgers. Because put me down as so, I kind of like Tyrod Taylor. I think the Giants would have been a lot better off if he had stayed with them this year.
The thing that worries me, and we had a caller earlier where the guy said, they should just tear it down. And I don't think they should. I think there's talent here, and I don't think Aaron Glenn's coming here to be 3-14. Because you know how patient the city is. If he's 3-14, we'll be getting phone calls that they should fire him. So I think I'm not saying you win a Super Bowl next year, but with the talent they have, if you get a decent quarterback, you could be 9-8, you could be 10-7.
Yes, Michael, I completely agree, and. This is, you see how many coaches get fired and how quickly they get fired now, okay? So this is more a now business than ever before. And we found out that even votes of confidence don't mean anything. I mean, Antonio Pierce didn't think he was going to get fired, and he did,
right.
Okay? And the list goes on and on and on. And so, again, I like Aaron Glenn. I liked him as a player. I like him as a football man. I think he did a wonderful job until the roof caved in on him when he had guys who barely played snaps this year on his defense. So, but you're right. This is the first thing that has to be established. There's nothing more important than deciding if he's going to go forward with the new Aaron is going to go forward with the old Aaron.
Let's shift just a bit to the Hall of Fame yesterday. Ichiro gets in. One person didn't vote for him. Billy Wagner gets in on his final try. And then CeCe gets in. And, we had an opportunity, Mike, to watch this guy for 9 years with the Yankees. And he was a special talent. We had Joe Girardi on in the first hour. And Joe Girardi said it might be the best teammate that he's ever seen in all of his years as a player and a manager. So this guy deserved to go in first ballot.
Oh, Michael, I wrote a column in today's paper about CeCe and CeCe's journey and how great Yankees are supposed to be in the Hall of Fame, and he is a great Yankee. The lead was we've added another C now for Carson Charles. Or is it Carson Charles?
Carson
right?
Charles, yep.
Yeah, and put Cooperstown in there too now, okay? And what he overcame, and even, Mike, even when his knees were shot and he had no arm left, Joe Girardi still had enough belief in him to give him the ball in Game 7 of the American League Championship Series in Houston in 2017. And, Michael, guess what? They weren't going to win that night because they had stopped hitting, and they weren't going to start hitting again until next year. I actually thought CeCe pitched better than when he got taken out of that game in the fourth inning that night.
Right.
Oh, no, he was – and what I said in the column, Mike, and what I believe, and Buck Showalter has always said this about aces in baseball. You know one when you see one, okay? And you knew this guy was an ace. And you know when he showed us he was an ace? Before he got here, Michael, when you know he was just a rental in Milwaukee, and this guy is pitching on short rest, knowing at the payday he's looking at, and pitching the Brewers into the playoffs, sometimes on 3 days rest. And we saw what a horse he was, especially against the Angels in 2009. Oh, no, he's put me down as a member of this man's fan club. And then for him to finally stop drinking, to go to rehab, and then to come back to his baseball career. No, listen, this is a great day for him. And a great day for the Yankees because, again, he was a great Yankee.
We asked him about the Milwaukee situation. He was a free agent to be, and he pitched 3 games on 3 days rest at the end when his agent told him not to. So we asked him about it on the Hot Stove Show on Yes, and he said, I think everybody would do that. And, we had to get through the interview quick. I don't think a lot of people would do it, Mike. That's just not the way athletes are built. They got to protect their payday.
Oh, Michael, that was as impressive as any moment of his big league career.
Yep.
I talked to Chris Smith, who wrote that CeCe's wonderful autobiography, and I asked him this the other day. I said, did CeCe ever talk about making the Hall of Fame? This is in the column. I said, did he ever talk much about the Hall of Fame? He said, not that much, but when he did, he'd mostly talk about how he thought Pettit and Andrew Jones should be in. And then Chris said, classic CC. So even with them, even then he was trying to be what he thought a good teammate should be.
I know you love baseball. How much did you enjoy watching Ichiro play?
Oh my God, Michael! I was having this conversation with a friend of mine today. Oh no, I was talking to Bill Madden, and here's what's amazing about Ichiro. He didn't. What was he? 27 when he got to this country?
Yep.
The only comparable career for completely different reasons. Warren Spahn basically didn't start winning games in the big leagues till he was 26 years old because of a little thing called the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. Okay, and from there he won 363 games in the big leagues, and we can only imagine if Ichiro had started here when he was 20 or 21, how many hits he would have ended up with. Okay, It was a complete joy to watch him, and then when the way he threw, the way he played the game. I mean, Michael, you saw him throw. He did look like he could have pitched if he had to.
Yep.
And it was there was never a time when I was at the ballpark and he was there that I wasn't happy knowing I'm going to see this guy at the plate 4 or 5 times today.
You know, the coolest thing, you could see people from afar and you could appreciate them, but I'm glad that he played those 2 years with the Yankees where I could see him every day and his commitment to excellence and his work ethic. There are very few people that were as driven as he played till he was 44 years old. So, I mean, I'd like to talk to the one writer who didn't vote for him and say why. What wasn't Hall of Fame-ish about him?
Hey, guess what? What if it ever turned out to be the same guy who didn't vote for Jeter? That might be a vote that we might have to think about pulling, Michael, because if you can't get them right, what can you get right as a voter? And that was shocking to me. I was shocked about Derek because I thought he was going to be unanimous, just like Mo was. But Ichiro, after everything we saw, everything he was, everything he meant to the sport, some guy didn't check that box, Michael. And we've talked about this. It's the only thing I vote on in sports, and I take it extremely seriously. And I get my ballot, and I talk about it with my friends, and I go back and forth. There's certain guys that I wonder about, but this was the easiest of all time. This was such an easy year, really, for me. It was because Billy Wagner I felt was going to get in, and his emotions last night were so beautiful. And I he was always a great guy to talk to in the clubhouse. He was. It was really a good guy. No, this was an easy year. Michael, are we running out of time? Wait, I got to ask you something.
Okay.
How do you feel about Pettit?
I think his numbers are comparable, obviously, to CC, and I think the thing that's keeping him out is the involvement with the PDs. I think he would get in.
Do you think he'll ever get in?
No.
You do?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I don't either, Mike. I don't, and it's so funny you bring this up because I got curious yesterday in the writing of the column, and I said, let me look at Pettit versus CC. Michael, the 3,000 strikeouts, obviously,
right?
That places CC in my mind in a different category, and that Andy was never really the ace of the staff. Okay,
right.
But their numbers across the line, Michael, they're almost identical.
Yep, it's like Donnie and Kirby Puckett.
Wins. Huh?
It's like Donnie and Kirby Puckett.
And there's one other thing. I know we're running out of time, but I have fun doing this. Okay, so here's the other thing. No, and I think about this a lot. Koufax, and I'm not comparing the guys I'm going to mention to Sandy Koufax, okay? I'm talking about a situation where Koufax's career was cut short, but he was already a Hall of Famer. And I sometimes wonder if we should have a Koufax exemption for people like Don Mattingly, for people like Dustin Pedroia, for people like David Wright, because all of them, until their careers got cut short by injury, to me, I think Mike, do you agree? We were looking at Hall of Fame baseball players.
We're looking at first ballot Hall of Famers.
And so this will never happen. But this is as a voter and as a writer, one of my dreams is that there is a way that we take a look at people whose careers got cut short for things that had absolutely nothing to do with bad baseball.
I like it. I'm sure Donnie. I think Donnie's going to get in anyway from one of the committees. I really do. I think Keith Hernandez will as well. Hopefully.
I agree, Michael. I thought Donnie's time had come. I couldn't believe it when he didn't get in last time because you know this, and we've talked about this. He was my favorite. He was my favorite of anybody I ever covered in baseball.
Me too.
In New York, and one of the best people I've ever met in sports.
Yeah, he's outstanding. Mike, thanks. This was fun, as always.
Okay, pal. Talk to you next Wednesday.
All right. We'll give away a super box when we get back. Right now at Bay Ridge Honda, kick off the new year in style. Come and get New Year's savings all month long. Explore amazing deals across their full lineup of Honda cars, trucks, SUVs, hybrids, and EVs. New Hondas are in stock and ready for you. Save thousands on a new Honda with 0% APR or drive a new Honda from $229 a month. Don't miss the biggest savings during the Kick Off the New Year sales event. Plus, receive thousands in benefits and savings with their Bay Ridge Plus Advantage plan. Upfront pricing, total peace of mind. Visit BayRidgeHonda.com.
Grainger knows space at your facility is limited. As a maintenance specialist, you only have so many spots for backup products in your inventory roster, which means space on your bench comes at a premium. Well, when it comes to breadth and depth, Grainger's got you covered. They've got over 1 million industrial-grade products. Plus, fast delivery helps reduce the inventory you need to keep on hand, freeing up space and capital while giving your operation a winning edge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by a local branch. So it's a new year, 2025, and you're thinking, how am I going to make this year different? How am I going to build something for myself? The best time to start your new business is right now, and Shopify is how you're going to make it happen. Shopify makes it simple to create your brand, open for business, and get your first sale. Get your store up and running easily with thousands of customizable templates. No coding or design skills required. All you need to do is drag and drop. Their powerful social media tools let you connect all your channels and create shoppable posts and help you sell everywhere people scroll. Shopify makes it easy to manage your growing business. They help with the details like shipping, taxes, and payments from one single dashboard, allowing you to focus on the important stuff, like growing your business. What happens if you don't act now? Will you regret it? What if someone beats you to the idea? Don't kick yourself when you hear this again in a year because you didn't do anything now. With Shopify, your first sale is closer than you think. Established in 2025 has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/network, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/network to start selling with Shopify today. Shopify.com/network.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous two-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
That's Superbox Bonanza 6. Yeah, that's right. Each qualifier will take home an ESPN prize pack and have a chance at one of 10 Superbox prizes. Be caller number. Let's go with one for the one Nudnik that didn't vote for Ichiro. Caller number one right now at 888-987-ESPN to select a box for the big game with a chance to win $250 in the first and third quarters, $500 at halftime, and a final score payout of $1,000. All brought to you by Tullamore Dew Irish Whiskey and Sloman's Security. 1-800-919-3776. Mel Kiper Jr. was on with DiPietro and Rothenberg, and he was asked, will the Giants definitely take a quarterback if Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward are there? Here's what Mel said.
You can't evaluate these quarterbacks and say we have to have one of the two. You got to love one of those two or both. Or if you don't love either one of them, you don't take them. Singles and doubles don't work in the NFL at quarterback anymore. You got to be a triple home run grand slam. And there's 5 grand slams in the NFL in this order. It's number 1, Patrick Mahomes, number 2, Lamar Jackson, number 3, Josh Allen, number 4, Joe Burrow, number 5, Jaden Daniels. Those are your 5 best. They're the grand slams, and nobody else is a grand slam but those 5. You don't have to get there, but get a home run. So you better believe that Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders can be that guy. If you don't take them.
Now, would the Giants drafting Sanders, Mel, be a home run?
his grade gives him a chance to be. But think about this. I'll just put this in the perspective of what were the grades. Caleb, Jaden, and Drake had 9.8 grades last year. When I do my ranking, you don't say that's where I rank them from. 9.9 the highest. They had 9.8. Okay, which is super high historically. These two, Shador, who's my QB1, and Cam Ward, are in that 9.2, 9.1 range. So you go 9.8 down to 9.2, 9.1. That's a significant drop. But every draft is different. You can always select the guys and pick the guys in your draft year. Jaden's already a grand slam. Drake's going to be really good. Caleb's going to be really good. I think they'll be triples or home runs. Maybe a grand slam. Do I think these guys can be that good? No, I don't. Do I think they could be a double, maybe a triple? Possibly.
That's interesting. So, I mean, if you're picking somebody with the third pick, I don't think you want a double. Maybe a triple helps. A home run is what you need, especially if he's going to be the quarterback of the future. I'm fascinated by this quarterback draft. It's not as deep as last year. I mean, the first three quarterbacks taken last year are all legitimate. I think Caleb Williams, will see how good he is with Ben Johnson as his head coach. Jaden Daniels has already shown that. And now with Mike Vrabel in New England, I think we're going to see Drake May be the quarterback that he could be. Fascinating stuff. Really fascinating stuff. We're closing in on what's going to be a big Sunday in the NFL. We'll have Sal Palantonio on with us tomorrow. He's covering the Eagles as they prepare to take on the Commanders. And then we have the Chiefs and the Bills. That's tomorrow on the show. It'll start at 1 o'clock. As always, I want you to be there as well. Coming up, it's Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg from 3 to 7. Stick around for that. Always a great listen. Please do that. Throughout the entire NFL playoffs, FanDuel takes it to the next level because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's $300 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Plus, when you win, you'll get paid instantly. Just visit FanDuel.com/K to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/K. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, 21, physically present in New York. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. See you. Enjoy the show.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
You know what? Check yourself.
Hear more from Michael K. weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN.
Suck it up and like it.
The ESPN New York app and your smart speakers.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.